Hello, everyone. Welcome to our virtual event today on the pending Kroger Albertsons merger. I'm Nidhi Hegde, the Managing Director of the American Economic Liberties Project. For those of you who don't know us, we're an organization dedicated to challenging consolidated corporate power across the economy and ensuring that markets are competitive and fair to workers, consumers, and small businesses. Today, we're here to talk about the potential merger of two of America's largest supermarket chains in an already highly consolidated market. We're joined by several United Food and Commercial Workers locals. In September, UFCW International, Economic Liberties, and more than 70 other organizations representing packing house workers, ranchers, farmers, consumers, and rural Americans sent a letter to the Federal Trade Commission urging them to block the Kroger-Albertsons merger. As we wait for the FTC to act, and with the Thanksgiving holiday around the corner and food prices on everyone's mind, we have come together to discuss why this merger is harmful. We have a great program where you will hear from a diversity of voices. To quickly run through it, we will first hear from Ms. Kim Cordova, President of the UFC Local 7 and Vice President of UFCW International. Following that, we will have a short panel discussion that is moderated by Joe Van Wy of Farm Action, with Claire Kellaway from the Open Markets Institute and Krista Brown from the American Economic Liberties Project. We're also excited to announce that today Economic Liberties is publishing a new paper on the harms of this merger, authored by Krista, titled Supermarket Squeeze, the Real Cost of the Kroger-Albertsons Deal. And we will hear firsthand from a number of impacted individuals, moderated by our Director of Policy and Advocacy, Morgan Harper. So it's a packed hour of great content, so make sure you put in your comments and questions in the chat. And it's now my honor to introduce our first speaker. Ms. Kim Cordova is a president of the United Food and Commercial Workers Local 7, the first woman in its 150-year history, and also serves as vice president of UFCW International. She began her career as a grocery bagger for Safeway and over 8 years held numerous positions, including stocker, checker, and baker, before she joined Local 7 as a union organizer and union representative. Today, in her fifth term as the president of UFC Local 7, she represents more than 23,000 grocery, meatpacking, food processing, healthcare, cosmetology, and barbershop workers in Colorado and Wyoming. So, Ms. Cordova, welcome. Over to you.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Kim Cordova, and I am the president of UFCW Local 7, the largest private sector union in Colorado. Again, we represent workers throughout the food chain in retail, grocery, production, packing, and processing, as well as other workers around the state of Colorado and Wyoming. And we have contracts at some of the largest corporations in the U.S. and globally. We also have grocery workers in the state of Wyoming. My local union is part of a coalition of unions that have been opposing this merger ever since it was announced more than a year ago. We represent over 100,000 employees at Kroger and Albertsons. These two companies are the largest and second largest employers, respectively, of the UFCW members in the United States. And this mega merger would allow them to become the largest grocery chain in the country, wielding tremendous power, not just over consumers and suppliers, but over workers as well. Before I decided to run for the presidency of my local, I was a frontline worker at Safeway. And so I know from direct experience that everything we win at the bargaining table, like better wages, a pension plan, health care, safety standards in the workplace, we win because we are able to match the employer's power with our union power. Ultimately, our power comes from workers' ability to set up picket lines, have a labor dispute with their employer, basically a strike. And we can put up a picket line on one of the employers and direct customers to a competing employer nearby. In January of last year, my local union struck one of Kroger's chains in Colorado around the Front Range of Denver, and parts of Boulder, Colorado, Broomfield, and other Front Range cities. And we struck for 8 days before the company agreed to the best wage increases that we had seen in the history of our local union. And that strike was successful because we had two competing employers, union employers in the same market. We were able to direct Kroger customers over to the Safeway stores in that area, and that put tremendous pressure on King Soopers to basically meet our demands. If this consolidation and this merger happens, we're going to lose, not have that kind of power, because we'll have one major grocer in the state of Colorado, and this is going to be the case around the country for all of the local unions, because Kroger and Safeway are so big. But don't just take my word about this. There is a new paper by the University of Utah economist named Marshall Steinbaum, and that demonstrates that this merger would be anti-competitive because it would limit workers' bargaining power. Kroger and Albertsons, they say that they're going to preserve competition by divesting 413 stores to a company called C&S Wholesale Grocers. This is including 52 stores in Colorado and somewhere around 12 stores, potentially in Wyoming. But C&S is a wholesaler, not a retailer, and it currently has no grocery stores in Colorado or Wyoming. And we've seen that this kind of divestiture plan before. In 2015, when Albertsons acquired Safeway, it was a disaster. They divested 146 stores to a small chain called Hagen. That chain had no retail stores in most of the states that where they acquired stores from Albertsons. The result was a disaster, and Hagen filed for bankruptcy in less than a year. And Albertsons bought back some of the stores, but most of the stores closed originally after the divestiture. So the lesson is simple. Divestitures simply don't work. The history shows that it's a disaster. It hurts workers, suppliers, and of course, consumers. But we know that the food chain is not just about consumers, it's also about farmers. So I'm very pleased to say that our next speaker will be Joe Van Wy, which is the Policy and Outreach Director at Farm Action. So welcome, Joe.
Thank you so much, Kim. And thank you, UFCW and ALP, for hosting this fantastic event today. As Kim said, my name is Joe Van Wy. I'm the Policy and Outreach Director at Farm Action. We are a farmer-led nonprofit that focuses on addressing monopoly power in the food system and revitalizing rural communities that have been negatively impacted by undue corporate power. And I am so thrilled today to be moderating a panel with two excellent antitrust experts who I will be introducing now. First of all, we've got Krista Brown. She is the Senior Policy Analyst at the American Economic Liberties Project. She has also worked at Open Markets Institute as a research associate, where she focused on the disproportionate effects of monopoly power on low-income and minority populations. We've also got Claire Kellaway, who serves as the program manager for Fair Food and Farming Systems at the Open Markets Institute. She is also the primary writer and researcher for Food and Power, which is a first-of-its-kind website providing original reporting and resources on monopoly power in food and agriculture. So I'm so excited to have them both here today, and we thought we would kick this panel off with giving both of our panelists an opportunity to talk a little bit about their research and the work they've been doing on this particular deal. So Krista, do you mind kicking us off?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. My name is Krista Brown, and as was said, I'm a senior policy analyst at the American Economic Liberties Project. And we just recently, today, released a paper about the harms of this merger. We kind of get into the various harms, everything from store closures, increased prices, failures of the divestment remedy in the past, and then the harms of vertical integration. So I'll let Claire introduce herself, but I'm excited for the conversation.
Great. Yep. Thanks again for having me today. I think in a minute, you all will hear from small grocers, workers, farmers, consumer advocates. And I think this diverse group that's gathered here today really reveals the fact that this deal would hurt practically everyone across the food supply chain. The only interests it really stands to serve are the private equity investors and other investors that are pushing it. We've seen a lot of grocery mergers and consolidation over the past 40 years, but I think as someone who studies this, it's important to emphasize that the size of this deal is exceptional. Combined, Kroger and Albertsons would run nearly 5,000 stores, reach 85 million households. Their private label brands would be the size of a large conventional food brand. We just stands to see a lot of harms to, again, consumers, workers, farmers, and happy to go in more detail about that.
Great. Well, I thought we could kick things off with something that Kim, I thought, set up very well. As she mentioned, recently the company has announced that they plan to sell off more than 400 stores to address concerns around the anti-competitive impact this deal is likely to have. However, Kim outlined very well that historically, divestiture has not been a successful approach to addressing harmful effects of retail grocery mergers. Many in the who are watching this merger closely remain skeptical that this will be an effective remedy. I wanted to see if either of you had anything else you wanted to add on the effects that whether you think this divestiture might be an effective remedy to the concerns that you have, or to talk a little bit more about the history of retail grocery deals here.
Yeah, I can start, and then Claire, if you want to tack on anything I missed. I think as Kim said, the most glaring recent example of the failures of divestment remedies, especially in grocery retail, is the Safeway Albertsons merger that occurred in 2015. And, again, as Kim laid out, it pretty quickly fell into layoffs where Hagen, the buyer, was a completely inadequate purchaser. It had 18 retail stores before the deal went through. And as she said, it went bankrupt. 33 of the storefronts, I believe, were sold back to Albertsons for a fifth of the price that they were sold for. So Albertsons actually made money on that deal. And a lot of the communities that were promised multiple grocers or competitive markets were left with one. So I think, again, that's just one example. But the paper that I wrote goes into a few other examples where divestments have not worked, where the seller ended up reacquiring a lot of the stores. But I think kind of to go slightly more broad scale, the harms of the merger are not at all just about maintaining two groceries in any one economy. It's about the increased purchasing power of these retailers and of their manufacturing plants. It's about the harms to workers and farmers and ranchers and the lack of choice that we end up with. So to look at divestment remedies is really missing the much broader scale of harms that we get into in the paper and that Claire's research has gotten to for the past number of years.
Yeah, and I can just add some of the reasons why CNS wholesale in particular, there's a lot of reasons to think that they would not be a successful competitor. As Kim mentioned, they're primarily a wholesaler, big, mixed, frankly, poor track record of wholesalers vertically integrating into retail. Also, it's just not really clear that CNS has the incentives to actually generate any profit from these stores. They're buying these stores at such a low price and getting some warehouse assets, which is really the core of their business and the kind of assets they'd be more interested in. They could potentially sell the real estate from under these stores and make their money back without having to actually turn a profit from any of the stores they're acquiring. And that's really concerning because we've seen, again, with the Hagen divestiture, that type of thing happen where companies are incentivized to buy a lot of stores for cheap because they can, make money off of them in other ways. and not actually operate them as competitive stores, which is essential for, the, I guess, logic of the divestiture to work. Something that we've looked at with the Ahold Delhaize merger, about 20% of the stores that were divested in that merger have either closed or been sold back. So there's just a high likelihood that these stores will not remain open as effective competitors, especially against a combined Kroger and Albertsons, which is going to have a huge competitive advantage. I think we should just be suspect of divestitures in general. One retroactive study found that the effect of prices on deals that had a divestiture was actually slightly worse than in instances where mergers were just approved. So yeah, lots of reasons to be very suspect of this proposed solution.
Thank you both for that. It's been, I think, really important to see both the general community and many of our enforcers growing more skeptical of these divestiture remedies for mergers, looking at the past history of really abject failures as a way to mitigate the harms that they propose. So, another thing that I really wanted to highlight is that while a lot of the discussion around the merger has focused on its impact on retail grocery markets, it's really important to note that both firms are highly vertically integrated. Both Kroger and Albertsons own and operate processing and distribution facilities across the entire food supply chain. For example, both Kroger and Albertsons are both relatively significant players in dairy processing. How do you think this merger will impact the food system broadly, not just the retail level, but the other elements of the food economy where these firms are active? And do you have any other examples of past retail grocers either entering or building up their presence in other parts of the food system, impacting competition outside of retail grocery?
Sure, I could start. This is a trend that we've seen with large grocers vertically integrating into food processing. And this can push out other competitors and leave farmers with fewer options, fewer places to sell their product. You mentioned Kroger and Albertsons milk processing plants. Those plants are really important because, at least in Kroger, for instance, 90% of the fluid milk sold in their stores is from their private label plants. So for any farmers in those markets that want to be accessing, a really critical grocery market, being able to sell to Kroger is really important. But now, especially in Colorado, we're going to see less competition when Kroger and Albertsons combine their fluid milk processing. But I mean, sticking with milk, we know that when Walmart entered the milk industry, it led to the closure of a major Dean Foods plant, and hundreds of farmers lost their contracts. Only some of them were able to get contracts with Walmart's new plant. So in general, farmers already don't have many options for where they can sell and market their products. When the supply chain is completely monopolized from processing to retail, it just puts even more monopsony power or buyer power over those farmers and leads to less competition and lower prices.
Yeah. One thing I'll add there, and Claire, I actually think you wrote this a year ago in your analysis of this proposed merger, was that 52% of manufacturing facilities will end up combined if this deal goes through. And I think that highlights a lot of the pressure that will be up and down the supply chain, where farmers, as Claire said, will have fewer people to sell to, and consumers will end up with fewer choices because in-house labels will be more expansive in both Kroger and Albertsons. One anecdote that I like to think of that at least I've noticed is just the expansion of in-house labels at Whole Foods, where Amazon has now sold thousands of products of 365 or whatever their brand is. And it's harmful not only to consumers, but also to the producers that end up at the whims of this one company. Oftentimes you also see significant automation wherever there can be workers, replaced by bots or any other form of automation up and down the supply chain. So the harms are expansive, but vertical integration is definitely a piece of this deal.
Absolutely. And Claire, I'm glad you mentioned the Dean example, because I think it's such a clear indicator of how, as retail grocers enter into these markets and vertically integrate, they make it much more difficult for farmers to find an adequate place to sell their goods. There were many of those farmers that you mentioned who couldn't find a contract. Some of them were offered contracts, but at drastically lower prices. For instance, there was a reporting of a dairy farmer named Joe Kelsey, who reached out to 12 different buyers when Dean Foods went under and he lost his contract. One of them responded and offered to buy his milk at 1/5 the price of what he'd been paid previously. And he was forced to sell his cows and transition to a new industry because of this consolidation in retail grocery driving consolidation across the food system. Which leads me to my next question, also focused on the farmer end. But as we can see, retail grocery has been consolidating rapidly over the last few decades, and it has accompanied a dangerous stagnation of farmer and rancher income. Over the last few decades, the farmer share of the food has continued to decline, reaching a record low of 14.5 cents. How has the ever-increasing retail grocer buyer power that we see in the current economy helped to drive down the prices that farmers and ranchers receive?
I can start with this. Right now, the dynamic is that with increased buyer power, there are more favorable terms given to the largest retailers. So Kroger and Albertsons, and even more so emerged Kroger and Albertsons, allows this company to demand kind of whatever terms they'd like from suppliers, given their expansive reach in the market. And that means that they extract a higher and higher percentage of sales, and they give suppliers less of the money, which then trickles down to farmers that supply the suppliers. So here, what you end up seeing is, as you said, a decreased percent of the sales or profits going to the farmers who are actually producing the food. And just for a statistic here, in 1990, farmers were making, I believe it was roughly over 50%. I think the exact stat was 60 cents per dollar spent on beef. In 2009, that was down to 42 cents per dollar. And then in 2020, that got down to below 30 cents per dollar spent on, the comparison's not perfect. It wasn't beef, it was steak. But I think that shows that the decreased power and kind of the decreased amount going to farmers are the ones really putting in the bulk of the work. And part of that, again, is because the largest companies here can extract as much as they want and end up giving that money to the executives at the top.
Yeah, I think I'll just also add that increased centralization in purchasing also affects competition in food processing, which further contributes to having not just large retailers, but large processors that are incentivized to merge in order to meet the terms of these ever-increasingly consolidated retailers. Big chains want to deal with big suppliers, and there just aren't the same inroads for local food processors to access grocery shelves, start regionally, and kind of grow to potentially become a national competitor. And so that also perpetuates consolidation. And yeah, all of these factors contribute to the shrinking percentage of the food dollar for farmers and for workers. Economic studies show that when a processor is reliant on one or two buyers for a larger percent of their sales, it's workers' wages that tend to suffer and decrease more over time. And so the same dynamic can be applied to farmers.
No, thank you. And thank you for mentioning workers, because that pivots very well to my next question. Over the last few years, Kroger's working conditions have received really significant scrutiny. For instance, in 2022, the LA Times reported results of an investigation that found more than 2/3 of Kroger employees struggle to afford basic needs because of drastically low wages and difficult part-time work schedules. Can you talk a little bit about the impact you think this merger will have on labor markets and in particular grocery workers?
Yeah, I don't mind starting. I mean, Kim already mentioned a study that just came out this week that shows very clearly that this merger will be harmful for labor markets by concentrating them. And it found three major effects. Straightforwardly, it shrinks the number of employers in a local labor market, meaning that employers aren't competing as vigorously for workers. But it also will prevent Kroger workers from seeking similar higher paying jobs at Albertsons or vice versa. The study did find that Kroger overall tends to rely on a lower pay, higher turnover model compared to Albertsons. And the current competition between specifically Kroger and Albertsons, both in job postings, but also in contract negotiations, is raising wages for both chains, but especially raising wages at Kroger chains higher than they would be. And so that gets to the last point. This will also give Kroger more power over unions in contract bargaining. Kim mentioned the ways that right now the UFCW can pit the chains against each other strategically, and that will be no longer the case when these chains are two of the largest union grocer employers in the country. And that's all to say nothing of the clear jobs that would be lost when these chains do inevitably decide to close stores, even though they are saying that they won't do that now. Just based on history, we have a lot of reasons to doubt that. So yeah, just the number of jobs, the quality of those jobs, and the wages all stand to suffer from this deal.
Can I also add something to that too?
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, just a few things that I'll add. Claire covered a lot of it, and I think the study that came out today was extremely helpful in kind of proving the point of harms to workers. But, in 2022, Kroger reported $1 billion in cost savings initiatives. And it's done that in the past to the point where actually investors have expressed their concern with how much cost savings this company can pursue without damaging the experience of customers. But a lot of that ends up being layoffs, fewer full-time employees, any other metric in which you can cut towards the labor force. In 2017, well, more recently, but a 2017 document was leaked that showed the company itself knew 1 in 5 of its associates were on some form of government assistance. So Kroger is actually extremely egregious in its employee, behavior, and it is one of the largest employers in the country. I believe it's the 4th largest public employer in the U.S. So the damage will only be expanded into Albertsons, but I think the study itself from Marshall Steinbaum and then a lot of what UFCW has already explained kind of highlights the majority of the harms in the labor force.
Excellent. And I know that here a little bit later, we'll hear directly from some workers who can really shed some light on their personal experiences here. And I'm really looking forward to that. I wanted to turn quickly to discuss store closures. Even absent this merger, we have seen significant store closures in recent years. Krista, in your brief that's coming out here later today, you note that Kroger closed half a dozen stores across rural Arkansas in 2021 alone. These store closures lead to larger and larger food deserts, making access to healthy food more difficult for Americans living in rural or low-income areas, as well as making jobs harder to come by for grocery workers. Because most of these chains are also significant pharmacy giants, these closures can also put life-saving medications out of reach for communities in these areas. Are you concerned that this merger will further drive more store closures, both of stores operated by the new potential Kroger and of independent grocery stores?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I'm concerned about and something that I think is pretty inevitable if this deal were to go through. A capital firm analysis found that there are roughly 1,400 stores in overlapping markets if this merger goes through. And I believe there are over 700 Albertsons stores within 3 miles of a Kroger operated store. So although the divestment seems significant in its number, I don't think it will at all cover the likely layoffs and store closures that will come just from overlapping geographies here. But as you noted, the harms of store closures are not only about grocery access and food access in rural and low-income areas for the most part, but also about the pharmacy services that they provide. Because historically, they've come in, they've outpriced just through their access to capital and kind of predatory pricing measures the independent pharmacists that exist in those areas. So the communities are really reliant on these chains. And once these companies find that there is no real use to operating, they will close and leave not only a grocery desert, but also a pharmacy desert. And yes, as you mentioned, the paper gets into some of the harms there, but I think it is highly likely that we'll see a kind of dual set of closures. And a CNS wholesaler is not going to be providing the same pharmacy services that these companies have been providing in the past. So that's another aspect of the divestment that is just missing in the conversation.
Excellent. And I've just got one last question. And Claire, you touched on this in your opening remarks, but as part of this proposed merger, private equity giant Cerberus received 75% of a $4 billion dividend paid to Albertsons shareholders. This massive payment, which largely cleaned out Albertsons' liquidity and put the company in a precarious financial situation that could be used to justify a sale, was unsuccessfully challenged by Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson. While they often operate a little bit behind the scenes, firms like Cerberus are major players in many industries, from agriculture to healthcare. Claire, could you talk a little bit about the impact private equity has had on driving consolidation, both in retail grocery and also across the economy?
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you brought that up, Joe, because I think it's important to recognize why this is happening in the first place. This deal that is, these companies will make it seem like, this is necessary to, they say compete with Amazon or compete with Walmart. And, obviously, those are big dominant chains, but one, merging is not the best way to deal with the threat they pose. And two, a massive, if not the reason this deal is happening is because Albertsons has basically been up for sale because its private equity owners want to cash out. And this is something that we've seen drive grocery consolidation in the past and across the economy. Just recently, Winn-Dixie is selling 400 stores to Aldi, also because their private equity owner does not want to be in the grocery business anymore and wants, their payout. And yeah, this is, not just promoting consolidation, but also extracting resources from these stores, in this case, $4 billion that could go to investing in these stores, could go into investing in workers, and yeah, just improving the customer experience. Instead, there's just blatant extraction to investor interests. So yeah, it's bad for the quality of the stores, the quality of the jobs, but also is directly driving more consolidation.
Perfect. Well, we are really approaching time, but just before I hand the reins back over to AELP, I wanted to give you both a chance to chime in with any last words, anything that we didn't cover. So Claire, I'll start with you. Any other items you wanted to flag here at the end?
Sure. I think one interesting dynamic that's also involved in this merger is the degree to which grocery stores are trying to capitalize on digital marketing. We see with privacy trackers kind of ending, more advertisers want to place ads directly with retailers. because they're collecting so much consumer data. And so concerns about the consolidation of consumer data and the advantage that that gives these large stores over independents, but also kind of the cash grab that's happening to try and get these advertising dollars is really important. And if we permit more consolidation, that's really just going to direct these resources to a handful of the largest players and could really make it even more challenging for independent grocery stores or frankly even mid-sized competitors to access what is a very lucrative market. I think some $45 billion were spent on retail media this year, and that's expected to double in the next couple of years. So we do need to really be thinking about how all grocers can equally access this revenue stream and not just, have another way for the biggest players to consolidate, more control over both consumer data and that revenue.
Krista, any last points before we wrap up today's panel?
I think the harms are quite expansive. We've covered quite a few of them, but I do just think that, the two companies themselves have for a long time shown their extractive behavior in the broader economy, both through being owned by Cerberus, but then also Kroger as a really bad employer, to the point where, they've been found at least alleged violations of employer behavior. But I think that overall, if this merger were to go through, we will likely see significant closures and the most rural and vulnerable communities facing the biggest harms, where they will likely face higher prices, more food deserts, pharmacy deserts. And overall, while this divestment might be getting at a few of those markets, it's significant in terms of employee harms, worker harms, farmer harms that go beyond just the immediate location or geography of each storefront. And so hopefully the FTC will consider that in its analysis of this pending merger.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for this excellent discussion. I know I had a great time. I hope you did as well. And now I will hand things over to Morgan Harper, the Director of Policy and Advocacy at the American Economic Liberties Project, for a further discussion on this deal. And thank you so much for hosting today's event, ALP and UFCW.
Great. Well, thank you so much to Joe, Krista, and Claire for the policy discussion. We wanted to kind of set the stage with the experts so that everybody has a sense of just the nature of the harms that could come from this Kroger-Albertsons combination. But we're going to turn now to hear from the real folks that would be impacted by those harms: workers, business owners, and consumers. And we're going to tick through everybody fairly efficiently, so stay with us. But this is a really important perspective for us all to take away from today's event. So to kick it off, we're going to have Kevin Flynn, who is a UFCW 3000 member, introduce himself and tell a little bit about his perspective on the potential harms from this merger. Kevin?
Hi, thank you. Like you said, I am Kevin Flynn. And for the last 16 years, I've been an Albertsons employee in Marysville, Washington. That's in Snohomish County. We're about an hour north of Seattle. I love my job. I'm proud of what I do. I enjoy the customer interaction. I take time to help them with dinner ideas, recipes, and that's one of the highlights of my day is the customer interaction. My wife actually works at the same store as I do. She's a Starbucks manager, which in our store is a union position. The meat department in our stores are represented by UFCW 3000, and pretty much the rest of the store is a Teamsters Local 38. So we're both proud union members. I'm telling you all this because I am very proud of the stands in opposition that our unions are taking to oppose this suggested merger. In September of this year, our UFCW and the Local 38 held a telephone town hall where over 5,000 members joined that call to to ask questions and present their concerns. So, 5,000 people, and that's just in Western Washington alone. There are definitely some concerns and questions out there, and most of them are opposing this proposed merger. The companies are trying to make it look like this is a done deal and keep us all, at bay, but we are still fighting for our jobs here. I was able to witness the ability to play one company against the other. I was a member of the bargaining team on our last contract, and at one point, Fred Meyers walked away from the table, and Safeway Albertsons still stayed to negotiate. And while they were gone, we were able to get an agreement for a nice, fair, strong contract. When Fred Meyers came back to the table, they agreed to the contract that we had proposed, and in a timely fashion. So I have seen that the ability of being able to play one employer or one employer against the other firsthand, and it was proven. Fred Meyers is trying to say, these companies are trying to say that it's going to be a good thing for union workers, but that's absolutely ludicrous. They if this goes through, they will just take away our ability to have strength in this marketplace. And so I just like to say, these are the concerns of many of my coworkers and fellow union members. Thank you so much for the opportunity to get our point across, and please, we all stand opposed to this merger. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for taking time and joining us today. I know you had to adjust your schedule. And yeah, I think that point that you had 5,000 members that were showing up to speak out against this merger is, I agree, a really strong indication of just how harmful this would be. And you all have been through this before and know exactly what's to come from this kind of combination. So thank you for your remarks. Next, we are going to move to Mike Calicrate, who is the owner and founder of Ranch Foods Direct, to share his story. Mike?
Hey, thank you, Morgan, for having this today and allowing me to participate. I'm a livestock producer from St. Francis, Kansas. We've been producing cattle since about 1975, and so I've witnessed this concentration consolidation in the industry, the food and livestock industry, for a long time. By 1998, because I'd been speaking out against the abusive power of the big meat packers who had, concentrated to a level of 4 firms controlling 85% of the market, and us losing our buyers at the feedlots and at the ranches that are in rural America, I got blackballed. And so by the end of 1998, I couldn't sell cattle anymore. I couldn't sell my finished cattle. And so I started a company called Ranch Foods Direct. And by 2000, that company was operating. But what was most interesting is in 2001, I attended a cattle industry conference where John Tyson was a speaker. John Tyson with Tyson Poultry Company was basically there to explain to the cattle producers how it was going to be okay for big chicken to buy big beef. And he was going to buy IBP. Well, that was the company I had a lawsuit against, along with other plaintiffs, cattlemen plaintiffs in at the time. And so I introduced myself to John Tyson that day at that industry conference, and I said, "I'm Mike Calicrate, and I'm a lead plaintiff or a named plaintiff in a lawsuit against IBP, and it could cost, if we win, it could cost IBP more than its entire market capitalization." And so John Tyson acted like, "Well, I don't know anything about that case," but he says, "I know all about the Packers and Stockyards Act." And I says, "Yeah, I know you do. And had it been enforced, you wouldn't be where you are today in the poultry business, dominating and monopolizing and taking advantage of poultry growers and chickens and whatever." And so he got real testy with me, but he did push back on one accurate point. He said, "You're suing the wrong people. You should be suing Walmart. Walmart tells us what to do, and we have no choice but to pay you less." And so here we are, cost to be reduced. We're the course of least resistance. I totally got that. And I said, but John, I can't sue Walmart because of Illinois BRIC. I'm not directly affected. I have to sue you and you sue Walmart. Well, Tyson was in bed with Walmart. I mean, he was supplying the poultry, the beef, the pork, the whole thing at the point that he buys IBP, the biggest beef processor. But what he said made a heck of a lot of sense. And in fact, in those days, I was seeing the big retailers as robbing the bank, and the big packers were driving the getaway car. They were really partners. And so Walmart could push down on IBP or the other big packers, and they would then in turn buy for less and less, as was described earlier. The share of the producer beef dollar shrunk from the high 60s in 1970 to as low as 27% during COVID. And so we've sat here, we've lost almost half our ranchers. We've lost nearly all of our independent dairy producers. We've lost nearly all of our independent pork producers. This is a food system that's under great pressure. And in fact, today we are a net food importer, period. Not just on a value basis. We're a net food importer. And our production sector is going away because of this monopolized power. And so thankful for Claire to explain the financialization of an industry and how that extraction is going to destroy our ability to feed ourselves. And so basically what we're left with now is a bunch of failing rural communities that are simply dying, and they're eating out of dollar stores, which is the waste stream of what we're talking about here. This industrial model where they bankrupt everybody and their leftover inventories end up in dollar stores. And so the solution here is absolutely don't allow any additional mergers. We've got to break up what we've already got in the way of abusive power. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Mike. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head here. Having these competing giants in different sectors in the food system is not making us healthier. It's not improving the quality of our food. It's not protecting business owners. And it's certainly not making us more resilient as a country. So appreciate what you've done over decades to speak out and bring attention to this issue. Next, we're going to turn to Julian Aguayo, who is a UFCW 770 worker. And Julian, I know you were responding to some of the earlier conversation on the labor impact, so would love to hear from you.
Yes, hello everyone. Once again, my name is Julian Aguayo. I'm a night crew employee at Food for Less in Arlington, California. I have served customers for 11 years, and even though I've been called an essential worker, I was not treated like one during the COVID pandemic. In the early 2020, the company didn't even provide us with protective equipment. It was actually my union that was giving us protective equipment so to keep us safe and from this deadly disease of the pandemic. As part of my job, I personally stock shelves, working for just a few hours of sleep to make sure families get the food that they needed. In the early 2021, at the height of the pandemic, Kroger was closing many of stores. Seven of them was actually closing. My old store was one of them in Hollywood. And when they passed the hazard pay, 2 weeks later, we have heard that my store was going to be shut down just because they couldn't pay up for 3 months of hazard pays. And that affected me a lot when I had to transfer to Arleta, which I drive now 22 miles versus I was only driving 5 miles from where I live in Los Angeles. The fact that the store was closed is one of the reasons why I hear Kroger saying that they won't close any stores if the merger goes through. It was hard for me to believe them because they did it once during the pandemic, and I know damn well that they're going to do it again if this merger's pass. Kroger already disrespect workers and customers by operating Food for Less stores as warehouse instead of traditional grocery stores. For example, they pay their employees at Ralph's a lot more of what Food for Less workers get, and we are a warehouse and they are not. This is why I'm asking. I have joined thousands of workers and all of you here today to oppose this merger. I respectfully call the Federal Trade Commission to block the mergers of Albertsons and Kroger. Thank you for allowing me to share my story with you guys. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Lane. And yeah, I think, just that detail of the amount of distance you have to travel and some of these harms that it might not be obvious to people, but it certainly impacts your daily experience. And I really appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you.
Last but not least, and at the beginning, I think it was Nidhi who mentioned, around Thanksgiving and food costs and all of this, we need to hear that consumer perspective, because I think most people in America are buying food, and it's going to be one of the biggest impacts just in terms of increased prices. And so hearing a little bit from Graham Downey, who is an Alaska resident and also an advocate at Alaska PIRG, on his perspectives. Graham.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I'm traveling today, as you could probably tell from the lack of snow in my background, but apologies for any noise in the background. Yeah, I think, Alaska is special in many ways, and we're very isolated from the rest of the country, and our supply chain, especially for food, is considerably more vulnerable. And I think that's why so many Alaskan consumers have come out in opposition to this merger. We just hear from everyday people worried about not only prices, but also about just sort of the basics of getting food to Alaska and making sure that we have a robust food supply chain here. I think another reason, or sort of some data we have from Alaska, we had Safeway, which is now owned by Albertsons, bought Cars, our local chain, in 1999. And their solution to that merger was to spin off stores to a local chain. And then that local chain immediately closed those stores. So we've seen spinoffs happen in our recent past. We have a memory of that. And we know that it doesn't work in Alaska. We also know what happens when we only have one of those two chains. Before Fred Meyer, which is owned by Kroger, came to Alaska, or they initially came to Fairbanks, which is just north of Anchorage. And prices in Fairbanks, despite the food having to come through Anchorage to get to Fairbanks, prices in Fairbanks were 10% lower because of that additional competition from the Fred Meyer store. And when Fred Meyer opened up their first stores in Anchorage, prices dropped back to being more comparable with the Fairbanks prices. So we've seen what's happened in the past. When they've done these spinoffs, they haven't worked. We're worried about our supply chain. We're worried about having a reliable and robust and safe food supply chain in Alaska. And we're already paying too much for groceries. And this merger is not going to make that any better.
Great. Thank you, Graham. Yeah, no surprise based on that experience you just detailed from the Alaska resident perspective that the entire Alaska delegation, congressional delegation, bipartisan, came out opposing the merger. So appreciate you joining us today from sunnier pastures than what you usually find yourself in. And thank you again to all of our panelists. That brings us to the end of our event today. I think that these discussions have made quite clear the range of harms that could stem from Kroger's and Albertsons merger being approved throughout our food ecosystem. And yeah, just again, want to thank all of our panelists for making that point so clear today. A couple of documents that were referenced today to continue to shout out if you want to learn more and hear some of the source material or get a view of some of the source material for today's discussion. Supermarket Squeeze, the real cost of the Kroger and Albertsons deal, is a brief that Krista Brown on our team wrote and will be released today by Economic Liberties. And then Marshall Steinbaum's piece on the labor impact specifically of this deal, something else to check out. And I just want to say Economic Liberties, we're very proud to be part of the Stop the Merger coalition of over 100 organizations organized by a lot of our UFCW local partners, some of whom also are co-hosting today, and appreciate all the work they've done over the past year to bring attention to the harmful impacts that would come from approving this merger. So if you're convinced, if you agree with what you've heard, there is an opportunity this week to make your voice heard. The FTC is going to be hosting an open commission meeting on Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and anyone can sign up to speak or submit pre-recorded comments. And the deadline to do that is by 8 p.m. tonight. So go to ftc.org If you want to share your perspective as a consumer, as a worker, as a business owner, to make sure that they have full information as they're deciding what we hope will be a decision to block this Kroger Albertsons deal. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Please feel free to reach out to Economic Liberties if you have any other questions. And again, just want to extend our warmest thanks, especially to our UFCW local members who really went out of their way in their schedules to make time to be with us today. Thank you.